So let me start with mantra. Om Vang me manasi pratisthita mano me vachi pratishthitam aviravirmo edhi vedosya mahani sthaha shrutam me ma prahasihi anena dhitena horatran samdadhami Aritam vadishyami, satyam vadishyami, tanmamavatu, tadvaktaramavatu, avatu mam, avatu vaktaram, avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om. All right, here we are. So there is something which I must mention. In this shift of paradigms, there is a very visible shift which we know as Samkhya. Samkhya philosophy brought for the first time kind of systematization of all knowledge in the mental framework. So that's what we see. They speak about tattvas. So here in front of you, you can see all these 5, 5, 5, and 5, basically 25 tattvas. That's what they call them. Tattva means the element which cannot be reduced. Irreducible element. It's quite interesting to think in those terms. Yes. So we have irreducible elements such as Agni, fire. Fire cannot be reduced to some other element. Yes, or water, um, or ether. You cannot reduce ether to another element. It is not produced from some other element, so to say. So the same Purusha and Prakriti, these are two major foundations. Purusha and Prakriti are eternal. And I must tell you that Sankhya is um, atheistic. It doesn't believe in God, interestingly enough. There are many Purushas, there are many souls, and there is one Prakriti. So when Purushas attend to Prakriti, Prakriti starts mixing her gunas, rajas, tamas, and sattva, and reveals one by one, step by step, all the elements, all the tattvas. Buddhi first, pure reason, then ahankara, ego sense, then manas, and then manas becomes responsible for all the jnanendriyas. Yes, there's one more scheme here. Let me show you. So Manas is responsible for these 5 indriyas, or we call them jnanendriyas, the indriyas of knowledge, hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, which are accordingly built on 5 great elements, Pancha Mahabhutani, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apah, and Prithvi. And you can see the correspondence between these two. And Karmendriyas. And Karmendriyas is a mystery in a way. It is that which is built within this manifestation for the sake of action of these indriyas of knowledge. We call them indriyas, and it's quite interesting because they belong to Indra. In the Vedic tradition, Indra is the lord of the divine mind, whose qualities are indriyas, or whose faculties are these indriyas: hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling. You will see that there is a reductionist approach here, because tattvas is actually already philosophical and reducing everything to the irreducible elements. There is already mental process of articulating all these faculties. And I would want us to examine today these two systems. One is Sankhya, which is mental structure, and pre-Sankhyaik paradigm, which was more Upanishadic. And before we looked into the Vedic, which is very different from this. And I want us to make parallels or to see how they evolved. And once we see how they evolved and they speak about the same in different languages, we will be able to understand much more about Indian culture. Uh, so it is a known system, Samkhya. Yes? On Samkhya, everything is built. Yoga is built on Samkhya. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is Samkhya is implied. Gita is built on Samkhya. Gita always refers to Samkhya. Even the many Upanishadic texts refer to Samkhya. The Samkhya started from long ago. Even Yajnavalkya in his Brihadaranyaka Upanishad would say that it is by the mind that you see, it is by the mind that you hear, not by ears, but by the mind, not by eyes, but by the mind we see. So we constantly synthesize the inputs of Indriyas by the mind. Yeah, this is the mental structure, domination of manas over the five senses. We call them five senses. And manas is the sixth sense, or the sense mind, we call it, which is synthesizing Indriyas. I'm sure you know all this. These are basics of Indian philosophy. It's not something you are learning for the first time. But what is interesting here is that this paradigm dominated all our thinking until now. We are really living within this paradigm. We believe that inputs of the senses is selected and synthesized by the mind, by the sense mind. Yeah? And everything what senses give us is actually we can trust. So we trust the input of our senses. And we manage that input of our senses by the mind. That's what we believe. It's scientific paradigm, basically. Science believes in the same thing. Yeah? Whatever senses tell you, you just look at it with the mental, conceptual, or perception and figure out what they really bring in. So we trust the input of senses. Something to think of. And why and how really this happened. Like if you look at the bigger scheme, we can see that manas is built on ahankara, ahankara is built on buddhi, and buddhi is built on prakriti or pradhana, where the prakriti starts moving and mixing her um, three major qualities, gunas, rajas, tamas, and sattva, which are usually in equilibrium. When Purusha is not attending to Prakriti, Prakriti is becoming kind of actionless, yeah, immobile. Uh, so the three gunas are falling into their equilibrium. There is no more mixture of them. But the moment Purusha attends to Prakriti, she, somehow disturbed by his consciousness, starts moving and mixing her three major gunas. And once she is mixing them, she creates first buddhi, and buddhi is the major quality of sattva, of that equilibrium. You know about rajas, tamas, and sattva. Every Indian knows about this, definitely. It is in the Gita, it is everywhere. Yeah. So rajas is the action, sattva is the equilibrium, and tamas is the inertia. So action and inertia are equalized by sattva, or made equal by sattva. Um, there are many examples. They are given also in Western occultism. For example, such an example of water put on fire evaporates. Yeah? This is the physical example of three gunas. Water is tamas, or inertia, some kind of substance. When it is put on fire, rajas, it evaporates, sattva. So we have something which is combining both rajas and tamas. There are also other views on it, very beautiful in the Western tradition, Western occultism, Kabbalistic tradition, is about the free will, rajas, tamas, rock, or that what is given to us as karma, as we call it in India, karma, that what we inherited from the past, uh, our circumstances in which we lived, our habitual, our habitat, so to say, and sattva, providence. Providence is something which is coming from the divine. So there is a constant fight between rajas and tamas, between free will and karmic consequences, circumstances in which we are engraved, and there is constant fight between the two, and nobody can totally win. If will is stronger, it can conquer the karmic consequences, circumstances, and if karma is stronger than will, then karma will dominate the free will. So this is rajas and tamas. But there is sattva, and there is something of the providence from above, so to say, the sanction of Purusha, as it were. And that sanction of Purusha, if it coincides with the free will, if it supports the free will, then karma is conquered. But if it supports karma and not free will, then free will is conquered. Now you can think about this magic triangle. We live within this magic triangle, basically. Why I'm kind of exploring this from the Western tradition, because I want us to see how fundamental these three qualities are, rajas, tamas, and sattva. So when Purusha, yes, yes, Rashi.
I've never heard water as apas. What does that mean? I've heard first time I'm reading this.
Okay, well, this
APAS,
is,
water.
yeah, apas.
I didn't know.
Apas is the Sanskrit word which means waters, yeah, many waters. It is from that apas that creation came into being, those inconscient waters. But of course, there is also jalam, there is udakam, there are many words for water, but apas is used as the element mainly. Um, it's quite clear, yes, what it is being kind of spoken here within this framework, Sankhyaik. We are very close to it in our own thinking. We really believe that our senses are kind of feeding with information manas, and manas is choosing, synthesizing it, and gives information to our ego sense what to do, so to say, and our ego sense chooses what to do, and there is beyond something like buddhi, which is not sense mind. And that buddhi is a conceptual vision where the senses already do not matter much. We are thinking idealistically, yeah, so to say, by ideas. And ideas are not built on the inputs of indriyas. This is believed so. It is believed that in Samkhya that it is that the Indriyas are actually inferior. They are going, they are turned without, not within. So to say, they are all oriented to our outer nature. So, but it is not so in the Upanishadic paradigm. The Indriyas, where are they coming from? And they are the faculties of Purusha. We do not see it in Sankhya, because there is a mind in between which is synthesizing them, this manas, sense mind, which is hijacking these faculties and becoming a leader of them, as it were, in the mental structure. But in the pre-mental structure, pre-rational structure, it wasn't so. It was a very different paradigm where these faculties, these hearing, seeing, touching, they were um, free and connected to Purusha. They are the faculties of Purusha. In Aitareya Upanishad, it is said that Atman created Purusha, concentrated upon it, and from Purusha, these faculties opened up. His mouth broke forth, from his mouth speech, from speech fire, his nostrils broke forth, from his nostrils breath, from breath prana, from prana vayu, his eyes broke forth, from eyes vision, from vision sun was born, light. His ears broke forth, from ears hearing, from hearing space was born. So you can see that these faculties his heart broke forth, from his heart mind, from the mind moon was born. So even mind is one of the faculties of universal Purusha which came into existence from that source. We do not see it in Samkhya. We think that these indriyas appeared somewhere on the level of five elements, but we do not see that they represent the consciousness of Purusha. Yeah? They are representatives of that Purusha in Prakriti. Now, this separation on Purusha and Prakriti is fundamental for yoga, because in yoga, the liberation, mukti or moksha, is about this separation. When Purusha is separated in his consciousness from Prakriti, becomes aware of himself, separate from Prakriti, that's what we call moksha or mukti, liberation. Purusha is no more bewildered by Prakriti. He is no more driven by Prakriti blindly, as it were. He is aware of his own poise, of his own consciousness. And on that ground, he can become a master of Prakriti. He becomes a sanctioner, Anumanta, the one who gives the sanctions. He becomes aware of his sanctioning of every movement of Prakriti. It is the second stage of liberation. By the way, Sri Aurobindo speaks about these three major stages. First is he separates himself from Prakriti, what we call experience of nirvana, for example. When you see yourself as if in the movie, yeah? You see yourself, but you are one of many selves. You are not real, so to say. Your reality is separate from your existence. That existence which you are used to, that means in the body. So you view yourself as if in the movie. Yeah? It's a very calm state of consciousness, because Purusha is unborn self, which was never born, which is always there, which will never die. So once you identify yourself with that consciousness, you view everything in this becoming as unreal. From here, this idea of illusion of the world. Yes, people who got liberated, they have this idea that all the world is a one great illusion. There is only one reality beyond, and that is Brahman or Purusha, you know, who is eternal. The rest is just a game of some kind of energy, which is not real, not true. But, as Sri Aurobindo says, it is not the whole vision. It is not the final say of this liberation. So to say, after that, we discover that Purusha is not only Sakshi, the one who observes, the witness. He is also Anumanta, the one who gives the sanctions. And then we realize that Prakriti actually does not act without sanction of Purusha at all. She doesn't have her own will. She acts only because Purusha is there. Because Purusha sanctions her movements. She is his energy, but he is the sanctioner. So if Purusha says no to the movement of Prakriti, Prakriti will drop it, stop, and will never come back to it. If Purusha will say yes, go ahead, she will go ahead and create everything, because she is interested in, how to say, she's always looking at Purusha. She wants to satisfy the Purusha. She wants him to be happy with her own action, because she is his energy actually. Only we do not know about it. We do not know that Prakriti is him yet. We think she is different from him. But this third stage, we can see, as Sri Aurobindo says, that where Purusha becomes Ishvara and Prakriti becomes Shakti, his Shakti. And there is no more difference between Purusha and Prakriti, between Ishvara and Shakti. She is his energy, and they are one and the same being. And this is something at the end of this process where Purusha takes into his hands the whole nature. He is totally in charge of everything what happens here in manifestation. This is not the case yet. We are not totally in charge. We forgot ourselves as Purusha. We gave our consciousness to Prakriti. Prakriti is managing with our consciousness unconsciously for us. We are not aware of our Purusha within ourselves. She is managing everything. She is doing. We have desires, we have aspirations in life, we have frustrations. It's all that what constitutes our unconsciousness. Yes, so we are driven by energies, and we are not aware of our sanctions, though they are given by Purusha. We're just not aware of them. We didn't get that mukti, that liberation. We did not separate Purusha from Prakriti, and we did not build on the Purusha's consciousness all the actions of Prakriti yet. But it doesn't mean that it will not happen one day. Such a long prelude. It was a prelude, actually, to to cover all the basics, fundamental basics of Indian philosophy, yoga, and you see the whole Hinduism is built on this mukti, liberation of our unborn self from the energy, from the manifestation in which we are involved. There is a beautiful passage in The Secret Knowledge in Savitri where Sri Aurobindo describes the relation of Purusha and Prakriti in this higher sense as Ishvara Shakti. The two who are one, he says, are the might and right in things. The knot, the two who is the knot who ties together the stars. These two are the manifestation of everything. As Mother would say, from her side as Prakriti, because Prakriti is also Para Prakriti, the higher Prakriti, and Apara Prakriti, the lower Prakriti, as we saw it already in the Vedic paradigm. She would say, without him, without Purusha, I exist not. Without him, without me, he is unmanifest. So this is the relation, very sacred, very intimate, close relation of Purusha and Prakriti. Without me, he is unmanifest. He is there, but there is no way he can know himself in manifestation in whatever form, because she is that consciousness force which makes him manifest. And without him, I exist not. There is no Prakriti without Purusha. One should understand this relation, and then there will be no question anymore. Of course, we have to use mental language explaining these relations. Now, why I'm speaking about this Samkhya as a mental structure so much? Because I want us to shift to pre-Samkhyaik paradigm. What was there before? How these faculties of consciousness were viewed before? And that is in the Upanishads. So in the pre-Samkhyaik paradigm in the Upanishads, there were three constant dvandvas mentioned: manas and vak, chakshuh and shrotram, and prana and apana, or prana and annam. If we look at these three dvandvas, they're constantly mentioned throughout all the Upanishads. Just take any one of them. maybe except Isha Upanishad doesn't speak about the faculties, and maybe Mandukya and the shortest Upanishads. The rest, Kena, Prashna, Mandukya, Mundaka, Shvetashvatara, every one of them, yeah, Kaushitaki, just take Brihadaranyaka, they constantly deal with these major six faculties, Taittiriya, Aitareya. Taittiriya Upanishad defines Brahman, spirit, as Annam Pranam Chakshuk Shrotram Mano Vacham iti. This is the definition by Bhrigu Rishi, which he receives from Varuna, his father, Varuna, the Lord of the divine existence. Now, if you look at them, Annam, the matter or the physical body, the consciousness within the physicality, so to say, organic matter has its own consciousness. Prana is that force which is charging that matter and making it animated. Then Chakshu Shrotram, seeing and hearing, another Dvandva, and Manas and Vak, another Dvandva. Now, if I will distribute them in a particular format, you will see in their opposites, because Manas and Vak, these are Dvandvas, opposites. Chakshuk and Shrotram, seeing and hearing, and Prana and Apana, breathing in and breathing out. It's like constant breathing in and out in all the faculties. They are covering the opposites, or not opposites totally, they are dvandvas, they are complementary powers. So if you look at them closer, you will see this interesting view that the manas and vak represent two, let us start with chakshuk and shrotram, seeing and hearing. If we look at these fundamental two qualities or two faculties of our consciousness, we will see that they are not just indriyas managed by manas. They are not only senses which are feeding us with information. They are fundamental faculties of consciousness. Chakshuk, seeing, is that very witness, Sakshi. Sakshi is the one who has an eye, who sees the Purusha. Purusha sees the Prakriti. So how come it is only an Indriya in Samkhya? Where is that drishti, revelation, where you see the light, the supreme light, where you see the face of God? Where is that part, that kind of vision of seeing? So it is totally omitted in Samkhya. Hi, hello. Hello, sweetie. Nice to see you also here looking at this scheme. Or shrotram, if you take hearing, it's not only ears which are listening outside, it is also listening within. It is listening to the silent Brahman. It is pervading into the depths of our being. Penetrating into the very depth of our spiritual presence. This is an inspirational knowledge which comes, Shruti, which was heard by the highest consciousness and revealed here in terms of mantras. So where is that hearing? So how could we define the difference between seeing and hearing? Not in Sankhyaik terms as Indriyas, but as the major faculties of consciousness. Sri Aurobindo says these are the main faculties of consciousness. And why? There is a reason. Because if you look at everything, if I show you any, I do not know, something I have to show you, which you can recognize. Okay, I will show you this. This is my Gita, small Gita. Yes, if you look at this, what do you see? If I ask you, what is this? Yeah?
It's a book.
A book. How do you know that this is a book?
The shape resembles that of a book.
Shape resembles, interesting. Yes. Shape, we have a shape of a book, but how do you know that a book must have this shape?
we just conditioned into believing that a book looks like this.
Uh, Well, we are conditioned by very practice, by our lives, that we know that the book looks like this. Most probably it is a book, but what you see is not a book. You see the shape, which may go for a book, but may go for something else. Maybe it's a mobile actually. You don't see it totally. I don't show you the pages, or maybe it's just a piece of wood, or maybe it is not even a piece of wood. Maybe it's a fake book. Maybe it's a prop for the theater, or maybe it is not even neither of these. Maybe it's a metal thing, because since you cannot touch, you do not know, and it feels plasticky on the top. So you see so many maybes for this one particular shape. What you see is some kind of square or rectangular shape of a red color. Even that it is rectangular and that is red, you can't know by seeing. You can know only by the word. You know that it is red, that it is rectangular, that it is book, most probably a book, and it is a book, by the word, not by seeing. It is the word tells you that it is a book. How the word is telling you is that if it is a book, then you can read it. That's what word tells you. It tells you how to use this thing for you and others, and what it does, it tells you. So there is one information which tells you how to this thing is to be used, and the other side which you see as the form. You fix your consciousness upon this form, and then you know how to use it. And you know how to use it by other part of consciousness, which which knows how to read, which knows that what is reading, what is knowing, how to read language, paper. Paper is produced from wood, and that there are pages, there is reading, there is understanding, there is man who understands. So you know many more things from this particular simple shape, which is immediately implied when you see it, and it is done by the word, not by seeing. Seeing does not give you, I don't show you that I'm reading. I'm show you only the thing, but you know that I can read, and that you know by the word. So it is quite interesting that everything here in this world has two realities, the form and the name. The form is that particular shape, or that being, that thing, Atman, self, and the hearing provides you with all possible relations of this form to all other possible forms, how they relate, how they influence each other, how they coexist in one reality. What do they do? For example, simple example, you see the face and you have a direct evidence of the truth. Seeing is a direct. That's why in Russian proverb they say better to see once than to hear 100 times, because you may say, many things, as Trump was saying, many things, but they never happened. Um, in India, they have very, very nice joke about politicians, when politicians speak something or promise something they cannot do. In Hindi, they shout halwa halwa. Halwa means sweet. That halwa, they say sweet, sweet. You say sweet, sweet, and I don't feel sweetness. So you may say many things, but sweetness doesn't come somehow. So there is no reality. In the US, they have another kind of very funny thing. Show me the money. Don't tell me about money. Show me the money. I want to see the money first before I will do anything. Don't tell me that they're in the bank, that here is a check. The check may be just a paper. It's a funny thing. So we trust in something which is embodied. We do not trust in something which is kind of about it comprehensively, that it will do. So the direct evidence of the truth. So if you see the face beyond the glass, for example, and that you see directly the being, but it wants to tell you something and you don't hear. It tells you something and you don't understand what it wants. And it wants a glass of water simply. And you can't figure out because there is no glass of water in the room. So it wants something which is not there. It wants to bring some other reality in. And that is the domain of hearing. Yeah? Everything which it wants to bring and manifest is the domain of hearing, the action, how it wants to act. And the direct evidence, already the embodied state, is seeing. Seeing is not a full information. It's only a partial information. So that's what I want you to kind of to think about, to ponder about, why these two are fundamental faculties. And both of them are, of course, perceptive. So you can see the chakshuh, when you want to see something, you become very, very passive or perceptive. You stop even breathing. If you concentrate your sight, you want to see, you stop acting. You become totally perceptive. The same with hearing. When you want to hear some meaning, you become very attentive. You stop all other activities. You penetrate with your hearing. You become passive in your action. But when you become active in hearing, you speak, you vibrate. And the action of hearing is the active state of hearing is the word, the self-expression of the being, the action of consciousness, which vibrates, which speaks, which communicates, which expresses itself. It is actively vibrating, whereas hearing is perceiving that vibration. And we constantly have both in us. When we speak, we listen to what we say. And sometimes we can be even surprised that what we say is really can be very revelatory to us. We can even learn from our own word, because that word comes from within somewhere. And when we hear it outside, we are surprised about the wisdom which it brought. So the same way we communicate with others. So there is active and perceptive state of the same faculty. So hearing has an active faculty of speaking. In the same manner, on the left, if you see, chakshuh is seeing, perceptive faculty, and manas, thought process, is an active faculty of seeing. If you can imagine that if we would be seeing actively, it is thinking. Actively seeing is thinking, imagining, constantly putting different selves together, connecting them in the meaningful self-relations. This is what we do. We collect the mosaic. And when we actively do it, we are thinking. Yeah? We are focusing our capacity of seeing in such a proactive way that we start imagining, creating forms. This is an amazing vision of the Upanishads. You can see 6 major faculties, which are related in a very interesting active dvandva, vak and manas, the speaking and thinking, and perceptive dvandva of seeing and hearing. So the left side, manas and chakshuh, represent the form, rupam, and the right side, shrotram and bhak, represent nama, name. Rupa and nama. It is by nama and rupa that Brahman, the spirit, entered into manifestation. And he entered as prana, as life force, breathing in and breathing out. He embodied himself with the help of these 4 faculties. I'm speaking from the Upanishadic point of view now. You can see how different it is from Samkhya. So in Samkhya, manas dominates shrotram and chakshuh and vak. in the Upanishads, manas is one of the faculties equal to speech, to seeing and hearing. And speech, seeing and hearing, they all have their relations on every level. On the physical level, we have them as our organs of eyes, ears, etc. On the vital level, we also have seeing, hearing, speaking, and thinking. On the mental level, we also on supramental level, on every level. We can see that, for example, Tantra will speak about 4 levels of speech. Paravak is the highest transcendental speech. Then Pashyantivak is the mental word. Then Madhyamavak is the vital word where the vitality is being formed finally into the language, and Vaikharivak, the expressed, fully expressed. So you see 4 levels of the same speech. You see the same levels of the mind. There is a super mind, overmind, and all the levels in between, starting off illumined mind, higher mind, proper mind. Then we have vital mind. Then we have physical mind. Mind is pervading the whole hierarchy of consciousness. Mind is present on every level. The word is present on every level. The seeing is present on every level. Hearing on every level. Faculties are simultaneously present from the highest to the most physical consciousness. This is a fundamental, very important vision of the Upanishads. Consciousness is seen as Brahma Chatushpad, Brahma on 4 legs, 4 fundamental qualities of Manas and Vak, Chakshuh and Shrotram. And Brahman itself is Prana, which is embodied in Annam, embodiment in material form. Absolutely beautiful vision. I don't know even what to say. You see, there is no smelling and tasting here. They're not part of this vision. And there is a reason for it. Because smell and taste belong to already reflected world, embodied world. Both of them are necessary for material embodied world already, because smell is nothing but particles of the being which are traveling and disturbing your, this. So you know it because the particle of the being touched you. It's as if somebody touched you, body to body, as it were. The same with taste. Taste has to have that water, that liquid substance, which will be kind of connecting you with this being which is liquidized in a way, and in a liquid way gives you a taste of it. So it requires the embodied state already. And these other faculties, seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking, they do not require the embodied state. They are direct faculties of consciousness. You don't need to be in the body to really uh, exercise or utilize these faculties.
Me, why? What is the significance of the two triangles, like the ascending triangle and the descending triangle?
You noticed,
I
yes,
understand
right.
one is opposite of each other, but how does it, like, what does it mean? There is a meaning, I feel.
Yes, you see, and I put different colors. I put word, feeling, and seeing in red, and these in blue, hearing, thought, and embodiment. This is something which we can gather from their characteristics. Yes, Manas is connected with the moon, Shrotram with the space, Annam is the embodiment, Traich. If we come to Prashna Upanishad, we will see that this is Soma triangle, the water triangle. And the other triangle is the fire triangle. There are 3 fires. Vak, the speech is the fire. Agni. Agni is the devata which is behind the word, rising, yeah, calling, invoking, aspiring. The prana vayu is another fire which connects heaven and earth, or which connects fire and um, rising from below, and Surya shining from above, two fires. And Surya is the eye, the another fire. So in this vision, there are three fires, Agni, Vayu, and Surya, which have to be united. And behind them, there are three levels of cooling water, soma, delight, ambrosia. That is Chandrama or Soma, the moon, the space which moon is kind of managing, yeah, that space with nakshatras, those directions of space, and embodied state of matter. Matter itself is soma. So you will see very beautiful relations between these two constantly, with these two dvandvas. Feeling, I put feeling and embodiment, but it is prana and annam, or prana and apana. Breathing in, taking energy in, and breathing out, putting it into the matter, embodying the pranic energy. Yeah? That's why annam literally means eatable, because it is embodying the prana. Yeah? It is that which is what we call it, animated matter, matter animated by spirit. And interestingly, prana from root an, to breathe, with pra suffix. Yes, there are 5 pranas: prana, apana, samana, udana, and vyana. We will speak about these pranas later. And there is annam, annam from root ad, eatable, which is embodying those pranas in matter and makes it alive. That's why our matter, which you see, our body, is alive. It is living. It is listening to my consciousness. I can speak. I can move my hands at will. The matter is organic. It is charged with consciousness, with my will. There is a consciousness present, and it listens to me. It does what I want, what my consciousness wants. It's unbelievable if you think about it, that our material body really listens to us and does what we want. It's really amazing. Okay, I will stop here and open questions and answer session. Whatever you want to share, please, or clarify, please go ahead, because there will be more things to say. So I want to stop at this point.
Hi, Vladimir.
Yes, hi.
You were saying about 3 kinds of fire, no? One was the Agni, which is behind the word, which
Mhm.
is the Agni of invocation, and yeah, if I'm not wrong. And the other
Yeah.
two, can you please clarify again? I did not understand it well.
Yes, Agni, Agni, Vayu. Vayu is another fire, and Surya is another, or Aditya, the sun. So the combination of these 3 fires is the aim of the sacrifice. When these 3 fires, Agni, Vayu, and Surya, are combined, connected, the sacrifice is done. These are 3 energies which appeared from the split of heaven and earth. When the heaven and earth got split, the lower part became earth, and with essence of fire, the essential energy of earth is fire. The heaven became golden, and the essential half of it is Surya, and in between there is Vayu, which connects Agni, and Surya is another energy, double turbulence, which holds Agni and Surya in connection. And that is the place of the sacrifice. So, pranic world. which connects mind, mental consciousness, and physical. Mental and physical are connected by prana, by energy, vital energy, life energy.
Yeah. And you said so the fire behind the word is for the invocation, right? And so similarly, different fires. What is the purpose of that?
No, there is no purpose. There is an energy of the mind, there is an energy of life, and there is an energy of will. Well, so energy of knowledge, Surya, energy of will, Agni, and energy in between of combining them both into the delight of existence, into the emotional um, enjoyment, into the heart emotions. Yeah? So if you see our body, however, our body is built in a very similar way, the head, which is more mental, the torso, which is more vital, the heart and all the intestine and all the sensations up to the sexual center, all this torso is actually vitalistic, yes, with three vital centers. And the head is with three mental centers, expression of the mind, and also breathing in and seeing and hearing. All the mental faculties is in the head, and the legs, which are more connected to the physical body, yeah? Starting from the sexual center down, knees and feet. The triple constitution of our body, the same triple constitution of our face. You can see the eyes and ears are above, the breath, prana in between, and the word, the tongue, the speech, the word, the agni is here in the mouth. So here is triple vision, another archetypal vision of our body. You can see that in the physical embodiment, we are resembling or kind of, we are the projection of those archetypal forces. And it can't be otherwise. It can't be that the eyes will be below and the mouth will be above. It doesn't work that way. And there is a reason for it. There is a hierarchy of consciousness. It's quite interesting. I'm just calling for your meditative contemplation on these matters, that they are fundamental and we never think about them because we never have time. We always are thinking about, objects of sense, how to survive in this world and how to enjoy it a little bit. But how we function, if you start thinking how we are built, how these faculties are built in, it's quite interesting.
Vladimir, I have a question. I'm still in that whole thing about Purusha and Prakriti, about Purusha sanctioning, making the sanction, and then Prakriti. I want to understand a few examples of the sanction. Uh,
Mhm. Actually, everything what Prakriti does is
yeah.
done with his sanction. Only we are not aware of it. Yeah. She would not do anything if it would not be a sanction of Purusha. He may give a sanction for her to freely choose, yeah? As Sri Aurobindo would describe it beautifully in The Secret Knowledge. Yes? He gives her, he is ready to fulfill all her caprices, all her desires. He is looking forward to be totally surrendered to her wishes. Yeah? But that is his sanction. We do not see it yet, but once we start seeing, Sri Aurobindo says that nothing here in this world done without the sanction of the Supreme. Nothing. Even the hair from your head cannot fall without the sanction of the Supreme. Now, if you just think about it, you will you will start noticing that the sanction has come. And from you also, when in the psychological terms, when you have a choice in your life, for example, you have to make a choice. and you contemplate upon it. You think where to go. Now you have two roads. Either go there, to marry or not to marry, to be or not to be. This is a very important choice, because after that there will be another life, very different life. So here you stand between the two roads and you contemplate, and then you feel in you an agreement saying, yes, I go this way. You feel it. You must feel it. Otherwise, you would not go that way. If you start observing, you will feel the sanction. We chose all our disasters. We chose all our, because we wanted them actually. We wanted to go through all that ordeal. We wanted to try to be free and try to see how it works, and it doesn't work. For us, it doesn't matter, because the choice was made. The sanction was given to go for it. Is it really kind of appealing to you or not, Maine? I know it in my life. I remember those moments where something in me said, okay, you go for it. And immediately a new life appeared. A disastrous life, very difficult, but still I remember I made a choice. And I was afraid to make a choice. Everything was telling me, don't do it. But something in me ignored that, kind of, and wanted to see how things may turn out. Something in me very curious about, something which is infinite and eternal in me, which does not believe in disasters, which knows that it is only temporarily, agreed to do it.
Thank you, Vladimir. That's very super cool. Explains the entire life.
Yes, we are constantly in this sanction. We are sanctioning everything we have, actually, by the way. And we like it that way, actually. We like
Still, of,
also to complain.
still, of course, we wake up to the next stage of the same.
Yeah. Yes, when we exhausted the experience, we know what it was, we already had it. Now we had the pain, we had the suffering, everything we already check. I had already suffering, I had pain. Now I can go for something else, for a new experience. Yeah. So I wanted us to, maybe next time we will compare these two paradigms, how the shift took place from where these indriyas or faculties are connected directly to Purusha in the pre-Sankhyaik paradigm, and then how they are separated by the sense mind, by manas. And manas becomes in charge of these faculties. Not Purusha anymore, but ego sense appears. You notice that in the Vedantic, in the Upanishadic paradigm, there is no ego sense whatsoever. There is no ahankara. Nobody speaks of ahankara because there is no ahankara. If the faculties are directly connected to Purusha, ahankara is not needed. But if it is connected to manas, who is managing them, the manager in between, then ahankara is a must. They are not connected to Purusha anymore directly. Our seeing and hearing are not connected to our highest, deepest consciousness in us. They are connected to the mind sense. And from here we have ahankara finally coming into existence. Great, we can stop here. If you have nothing more to share, or if you have, please do. It would be nice. If not, I will close.
Is Ankara, sorry, somebody was saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, is Ankara always bad? Like, is it?
No, why
Niranjan?
bad? It is absolutely necessary for our functioning in the mental structure. Ahankara is absolutely important and necessary. And Sri Aurobindo makes a difference between ego and egoistic. Yeah? Ego sense. So ego is needed, but egoism is not needed. It is when we are centering everything around ourselves and we are concerned only about ourselves and how we look and how we are perceived and how we are liked and disliked. We are constantly preoccupied with this. But ego is necessary to act in the world, definitely. Ahankara is necessary. And there is a very nice proverb by Sri Aurobindo: ego was the helper, ego is a bar. There comes a time when ego becomes a bar, a problem, an obstruction on the way. But before it was a very great helper. It helped us to survive, to act in the world as
Yeah.
separate physical beings.
So ego gives us that sense of separation, right?
Yes, an importance of you being in this body. You have to take care of yourself. Even Vivekananda was speaking about this. He said that I would not give Bhagavad Gita into the hands of children of India. I would rather give them a football, that they would develop their physical being more, because they are weak physically, vitally, egoistically. They are very much in this, dream world, and that's why they lost the grip of a matter. We do not have force enough to hold the material manifestation. It is needed. Ego is needed. It has to be developed. Egoism is another matter. You don't need to be egoistic. You can have very strong sense of yourself, and but you don't have to be an egoist.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, some people speak about love yourself. I was always objecting to this idea to love oneself, but most probably this is an healthy egoism, or what that call is ego sense. Yeah, healthy ego. That means you are not in love with yourself. You just like yourself. You like as you are, and you want to work with that material which is given to you. So I changed my mind about this. People who preach to love themselves. But usually these are very egoistic people. They want to love themselves more and more. That is ahankara. Ahamkara, literally doing aham, saying always I. There is a funny kind of statement in the English language. I, myself, and me is already a crowd here. I, myself, and me. It's a crowded space. There is no more space for anyone else. It's all me, myself, and I. The three different beings are there. So that is ahankara, saying aham all the time. By the way, in Sanskrit tradition, if you study Sanskrit language, you will see that Sanskrit prefers passive voice to active voice. Instead of saying, I build the house, Sanskrit prefers to say, the house is built by me. So the house is built is more important, and by me is less important than I build the house, which is more preferable in English language. So linguistically, you could see that preference for not having ahankara. All right, I can stop here. Yes, Ashish, you wanted to say something.
No, it was just the same because I was also thinking, what's the use of senses if they're all they're doing is indulging, but then they also save us, then they also help us figure out our way in the world. But to me, the message is that they have to be utilized in the right way. So the senses are not the primary reason why we are alive, but there's a bigger goal, and the senses are probably the secondary or the tertiary in the layer. So, yeah.
senses in the Samkhya, yes, but not in pre-Sankhyaik paradigm. These very senses are actually faculties of Purusha. When Purusha attends to Prakriti, he attends with these faculties, with seeing, hearing, speaking, and here they are, they appeared as Indriyas. Prakriti embodied them and created organs for them in this material manifestation because he attends to her with his faculties. Purusha has faculties. It is his hearing, it is his seeing, yes, which she embodies. And we consider this Indriyas as if creation of Prakriti as a secondary stage. But it is not totally true. The Indriyas are infinite. They go to the deepest, highest, supreme consciousness, yes, of Purusha. It is his faculties. In the Aitareya Upanishad, it is explained very beautifully where these faculties were manifested from universal Purushas when they came forth. From his eyes, this light was born from his, or the seeing and the light from his ears, hearing and space from his mouth, word and fire from his nostrils, prana and vayu. When all these devatas came into being, universal devatas from universal Purusha, they all plunged into the darkness of inconscient, into the ocean of the inconscient. So when they plunged into the waters of the inconscient ocean, they cried from the inconscient ocean to build up the bodies for themselves. So that is the work of the Prakriti. Prakriti starts moving and building organs for these very devatas, for these faculties, to embody them in the Purusha form. So first, he brought the Atman, brought them to the faculties, he brought them the horse. And they said, it is well done, but it is not enough for us. Then he brought to them a cow. They said, it is well done, but it is not enough for us. And then finally he brought them Purusha, the embodied, the body of the human being. And they said, it is well done. And he told them, enter him as your abiding place. And so the fire became the speech and entered his mouth. The wind became the prana and entered his nostrils. The light became the seeing and entered his eyes. The space became the hearing and enters his ears. He is reassembling everything in the evolutionary process, these faculties back to this individual framework. So this is the work of the Prakriti. That's why we have these 5 Indriyas here. She embodied the faculties of Purusha back to her evolutionary framework. She created individual beings, what we are. We are all individuals, separate beings, created by Prakriti, but we all share universal faculties of Purusha. We
So
all
is
have
it
seeing, we all have hearing, yeah, and so on.
so is it that when we take the human form, we give too much importance to these indriyas and maybe sometimes just spend the life just chasing where the indriyas drive us. So there is one interpretation which is at a higher level, and then there is another interpretation which is at the human level, which is what
Absolutely.
is spoken about in the Gita or in the Itihasa documents.
Absolutely, it's very true. Here it is the scheme which shows if these indriyas are turned without, that's what we call senses. Yeah? They are sensing the reality, outer reality. They are turned towards the surface, and they bring the input of the surface. through themselves. And that's how we know that real is real. Scientific approach. If we look into them, into these faculties in their own domain, how they function, how the mind functions, how the hearing functions in their own vital and mental domain, it's very different than they're turned without. And if we turn them totally within, towards our innermost self, towards Purusha, from which they came, originated, then they become absorbed in the inner being. So that's what Rishi closed his eyes and looked within for his inner self. These very faculties, they do the same work. They become involved in the spiritual experience, and they can be involved in the outer scientific experience. It's them who do the work.
So, whatever makes us unique and whatever drives us, the effort in the life is to look inwards and look beyond that. It's an interesting,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any other faculties. We don't have some faculty which is not looking, which is not hearing, which is not apprehending and comprehending. We will come to it more in detail next time, because seeing and hearing is apprehending and comprehending, understanding and recognizing, cognizing and understanding. Without these, consciousness does not really function. Yeah. So whether we turn it within or without, or within, staying within, and then we will be differently functioning. These are three different functions of the same faculties. And they are all Purusha attending to Prakriti. Purusha sharing his faculties with his force, which is building them in a particular individual framework. All right, great. These are good questions. Thank you for them, because they are clarifying things which we must clarify. And we can stop here. Yes, if there is no more, it's already kind of quite.
A quick question, Vladimir, please.
Yes.
I want to know if, like, it's to inward. Suppose the ability to see. So there is one to turn inward and one to turn outward. Do you think if one kind of gains supremacy, the other one declines?
Absolutely, absolutely. When, as it is said in Savitri, when Satyavan meets Savitri for the first time, he says, "When I looked within for God, I lost the sight of nature. When I looked for nature, I lost the presence of the spirit." So it's always either or. This is the problem of our major dilemma. We can be either active outside, we look outside, we live outside life, and then we forget about inner being. We do not have the contact within. But when we look within, we become very immobile. We close our eyes. We sit in this still, asana. We stop our breathing. We stop our thinking, because we want to reach deep within. So here we are. This is the dilemma of being active or perceptive. So when we become active, we lose our inner perception. When we become inwardly perceptive, we become inactive outside.
It is, because it's my personal thing. Because when I was an actress and I was a theater director more, then my whole world was outside. And when I became a healer and a channel, and I could just see so much with my eyes closed. So my mom and everybody at home started to say, "Can't you see in front of you? Can't you see this?" And I'm
Uh-huh,
like,
uh-huh.
"I'm seeing, but I just can't see." And I'm seeing lives of other people. I'm seeing past. And so I thought that it's just so difficult to now operate in the regular world, because I'm not able to see what everybody is seeing. Unless somebody points out to me, "Do you see this?" Then only I can see it. And it's making it difficult. Like regular worldly things are becoming more difficult for me as I'm going deeper into the channeling and the healing work. So I,
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. The
yeah,
same
I
with
think
me.
there's something wrong with me.
No, no, the same with every one of us, so especially those who are thinking about higher matters. We are like beyond the clouds. You're in the clouds, that usually people say. Don't you really know what to do here? This to be done. I know that it is to be done, but I'm not interested really in doing it. And I'm interested more to see what is there in the depth of being. Yes, absolutely. Uh, and this is a challenge of our life, and how this challenge is being solved by the Upanishads is that it is said that these faculties, which are looking either within or without, may find another third poise, and that is the yoga of Upanishads, that they have to stay involved in our life, but renounce their self-satisfaction and looking for their self-satisfaction in the object of sense. Because we are tied to the object of sense, they are immediately looking for their self-satisfaction. They have the full right to be totally satisfied because they are coming from the universal Purusha, where there is a total bliss. Yeah? They want a total bliss in everything what they do. And they cannot find it here in this world when they attach themselves to the object of sense. So what they have to do, they have to renounce that claim of getting satisfaction from the action without, and so to say become attentive to the inner light. Being involved outside, become attentive to the inner light which they may bring to the surface. And every time this light is coming through them, because they are the channels of that inner being, inner consciousness, to reach to the surface of our being here. So the moment they channel it through, they are becoming totally satisfied with everything they do. So this is the only way when they will be satisfied. They cannot be satisfied by desires. Desires will never satisfy them. This is the weird part of it, of which only few know. Like Buddhists, they speak that even the rain of golden coins cannot satisfy the desire, because the desire cannot be satisfied. The indriyas have to be satisfied only in the absolute sense of consciousness. So if they, acting here, would allow that inner light to beam through, to come through to the surface, then only that is the major connection of the inner and outer, where we are no more separated. We are not looking either within or without anymore. We are staying without, active without, and being perceptive within. So this is the aim, yeah? The aim of Upanishadic yoga, which is very difficult to get into, yeah, because we are not used to. We are used to either close your eyes and look inside, or look outside and forget about inner. So that's what we do. We are kind of living like this for too long. Our consciousness is split either within or without. So never both. How to be both, active and perceptive. And that is karma yoga's ideal. So be active outside as usual person, but renounce the claim of the indriyas for self-satisfaction. Don't look for the result. Don't look for something they will enjoy. Don't anticipate the enjoyment of senses. Act and try to connect the indriyas to a deeper motivator, to a deeper presence in you, to the self in you, and then it may work. And it works. Of course, it's difficult to do, but it is possible to try at least. Okay, I will stop here. Great, thank you for these questions. I will close with the mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santo Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om. Namaste. Okay,
Thank you very
see.
much.
Thank you. Bye.